Just think about it for a second. One man's life hangs in the balance, and an entire region is teetering on the brink of war. For a moment there, it really felt like the whole world was holding its breath, just waiting for that one spark that could set everything off. So today, we're going to break down this absolutely dizzying 24-hour period that saw the United States and Iran go right to the very edge of conflict, only to somehow pull back at the last second. Let's dig into how this whole thing unfolded.
Okay, so to really understand how we got this close to the edge, you have to start with what's been happening inside Iran. For weeks, the country has just been rocked by these massive protests against the rule of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. And this is all being driven by some really severe economic hardship and just fierce political repression.
And the government's response? Well, it's been incredibly severe. Human rights groups are reporting that in the crackdown on these protests, more than 3,400 people have been killed. To put that in perspective, that makes it one of the absolute deadliest periods of unrest the country has seen since the 1979 revolution.
Now, a violent crackdown like this, it doesn't just happen in a vacuum. It sparked intense condemnation from all over the world, and it brought Iran and the United States, who, let's be real, are longtime adversaries, into this dangerously tense standoff. And in the middle of this massive, chaotic crisis, all of that huge global tension, it suddenly just narrowed down like a laser beam, focusing on the fate of one single person.
And this is him, Irfan Soltani. He's 26 years old, a protester who was arrested, and then incredibly quickly became the very first person sentenced to death in all this unrest. With everyone believing his execution was literally just hours away, he became the symbol of the entire crisis.
That's when the rhetoric from the U.S. side just exploded. President Donald Trump took to social media with these really direct, unmistakable warnings. He was making it crystal clear that the White House was watching Soltani's case and considering its options. The message was simple: stop or else.
And you know, these weren't just words. Things were actually happening on the ground. The U.S. started pulling some personnel from a key airbase. Iran completely shut down its airspace. Embassies in Tehran began issuing warnings. The U.K. even closed theirs temporarily. And then Tehran sent this absolutely chilling message to its neighbors, basically saying, if the U.S. attacks from your soil, we will attack you. War felt frighteningly close. But then, just as it seemed like a military confrontation was pretty much inevitable, the entire situation just pivoted. I mean, it turned on a dime. The very first sign of a change came from a human rights group. Late on Wednesday night, word started to spread that Irfan Soltani's execution had been postponed. It was like the first crack in this massive wall of tension that had been building up.
Right after that, we got an official pivot. Iran's foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi, actually went on American television and just flat out denied any plans for executions related to the protests. He said that hanging was, and I'm quoting him here, out of the question. And almost immediately, you had President Trump mirroring that sentiment. He told reporters he had received info from, quote, very important sources on the other side that the killings and executions had stopped. So you have both sides publicly taking a huge step back from the ledge.
But, and this is a big but, this sudden de-escalation might not be as straightforward as it seems, because when you take a closer look, you start to see signs of a really serious divide within the Iranian government itself.
So get this, on one side, you have the foreign minister saying executions are totally off the table. But at the same time, you have Iran's powerful judiciary chief, Ghulam Hussein Mohseni-Ejei, publicly demanding swift action against protesters. He argued that if justice is delayed, it loses its effect. I mean, these are two completely opposite messages coming from the very top. It really hints at a power struggle between officials who are managing international pressure and the hardliners who are determined to project strength at home. And the stakes of this internal conflict, they are just enormous. According to rights groups, we're not just talking about one life on the line anymore. We're talking about the lives of over 18,000 people who were detained during these protests. And all of them are now in the hands of that very same judiciary that's calling for speed.
So while it seems like a direct military conflict has been averted, for now, the underlying crisis is very, very far from over. I'm talking about the fate of thousands of people and the stability of the entire region. Let's just recap how incredibly fast this all happened. We went from a peak fear of war early on Wednesday to both sides publicly de-escalating by Wednesday night, all the way to Iran reopening its airspace on Thursday. It was a complete reversal in the span of about 24 hours. Just why? So what are the key takeaways here? Well, first, the whole crisis was kicked off by Iran's severe response to its own internal protests. Second, the story of one individual, Erfan Soltani, really personalized this global standoff. Third, a surprisingly fast de-escalation pulled both sides back from the brink. But fourth, and this is maybe the most critical point, those conflicting messages coming out of Tehran create some deep uncertainty about what the government's true intentions really are. The immediate threat of war might have passed, but this leaves us with a really unsettling question. With thousands of lives caught between this diplomatic front and a hardline judiciary, the calm that we're seeing feels temporary. It feels fragile. So what happens to them? And what does that mean for the future of Iran?